The fountaineer. A string of birds upon a breeze I rummage on the pool's surface. What you overhear, you oversee. Whoever I am, sitting on your knee, your finger wedged within my spine, that column of hollow subjunctives, the sea. Read my lips, minds, thighs, leaves, reading, we osculate, kiss, reply, glorious, made up. I used to hang out at the fountain of youth, a superphysical language I learned as I swam, and delight's adjudications danced within my matter. The fountains that lurk throughout these woods with retrospective need hunt us down like vampires with the other singing animals. The self is an enchantment. Under the green and gold wings of man-eating birds, a dream of Greek relics passes unconsidered. Under the wings of parrots, long extinct from these shores, goblins fan the cheap human flames we carry in hand mirrors around their mountain kingdom. Now and then, briefly, demolished by errant children. Even Stevens. The meadow has a wild backwards shadow. In the white gloom, in spring, the ice resumes its forward motion through the air and packs its listless ways into the disk of summer. At the Tivoli bays, the rain falls up and down. Amid the tides and currents, there is nothing to salvage in this house, only the alarm, recurrent and hidden shudders in its illusion of architectures. By the spicy, smoking fountain, it is a pleasure to watch position and opposition, knowing them to be imposture. Even water is improved by the hiding of it, and where the timeless idlers hide themselves, they contract apparent activity, flavors, their smooth gems in my path again. An homage is not less original or lacking, the unoriginal lack that haunts our vale, with lacustrine slanted light, through nights infested with acanthus and jasmine like switches on a wall that are hidden by an open door. This lake is carried on the tendrils of its light, shoots, demotic extensions of the unreal. Detached fingers wake beyond the extensions of charmed sleep. To quote your ghost, Esteban, garland of flowers, the unreal comes directly at us, the real does not assess, and, when thought is backwards, resilience is real.
Hi from Marfa, Texas. I'm Eileen Myles, and this is Honey. And the poem is called We. We'll feed you until we kill you, but if we leave, we won't feed you. Light in the rain, and the rain's pulsing. 4 dark little steps. Could that be a poodle? A dirty old poodle that's hungry? That poodle could be young, since hunger is a great equalizer. I had faith and confidence, and here we are. As a child, I was inclined to masturbation and nose-picking. The movie's so slow, when they sleep, I want to sleep. So I don't get to bark? No, you don't. The new life. Half the day eating, half the day exercising. The dog's their old roommate. This big country, his big country bottle is woven. The ordeal of life. Funnels. And his Macbeth. What remains is a half hour. And it's going to be a half hour in so many ways.
Hello, this is Wo Chan, reading a poem from the hallway of my tiny Brooklyn apartment. Let me see if I can move this back a little bit. Ah! I got this. Okay. Cool. Okay. People like you more than you think. No wrong falls dirt on the ass-planted pasta sauce squat kinky mid-Broadway, starching scritch-scratch to Zucchett's yodel plentitude in their Trader Joyful cooler bag strapped in street-picked blue. Oh, she thinks it's autumn in her unstoned tracksuit. She commutes long distances, dinner with her analyst Flatbush friend, a butternut dildo squash. She wears vertical houndstooth, slices vertical Akira Kira plus Zook. This conversation on mothers is not going well. Freewheeling, they do not heal fast enough. She doesn't call. She's hung up on some, if not, oh, definitely the same childhood. She misses the thickness. She admits life, clenching, is her own genius, so angry it snags the oil-slicked cradle of fish, unblinking, that casts a shade of blue Tyvek flags, lidding the ground zero site of all feelings, begs for belief. The night softens its eyes on the unionized forest. The water unbraids itself, clear and limp. I love my neoclassical marbled eye rounds. I love this body made of bones, aluminium, the rubber of old doorstops. I have wanted to not exist, and I have wanted to be her. I have wanted some epic use for my excellent enjammed body. I want the water to soften on the unionized forest. I want the clear night to limp into my eyes. Thank you. Hope everyone's doing well and staying safe as best they can. Look at those unsightly kitchen rags in the back. Thank you for having me, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your beautiful day.
All around us decay. We can smell it, the white mills, white air between us. Pretend we exist. Our wiry diving into labor stinks of stains of hand jobs in blank rooms. Try language. Try excessive sweetness. No names for things. No names for phenomena. Wound gathers around borders. How long can a person live without a body? Once the body, once its spiked desires. Delirium of crux. Central cavity of a divide that swarms the body's guts. Elsewhere, corporeal men made to eat at each other's necks. Hundreds upon hundreds, a caterpillar, iron in the face. Think of other body rows, other shit and piss baths. Think of acquiescence. Now think of the stratosphere, of being slightly beyond. I've been giving a life to carry around and nurture its preciousness, to say, me, and then look out and see there's nowhere to go. I remember the way California holds itself, distinguished in elemental cacophony. Things just glow. Even there, a cotton wad filled my mouth, when I'll glut from misuse. Hey, Firestar, I used to say, come on over here and let me walk you. And the answer, mostly, was yes.
In every field, we are building rooms made of air. Where is everyone, you ask? Tucked inside, comes the answer. Tucked inside. Her voice echoes across the emptiness as everything slowly unplugs. Sometimes we don't like the angels God sends, the preacher said, when we used to go to church. This one wears a crown, this one is a thorn. Today, I woke up to snow, the flakes so white, they nearly blinded me. The governor speaks inside an empty room today at noon, washing his hands like Lady Macbeth, washing his hands like a fly. If you go outside, he promises, you will kill someone you love. Overflowing is a word we hear more and more. What was here, we ask, passing an empty storefront? Is blank still alive, we ask, but then regret it. The low flowers of spring have just appeared, a chain of purple pushing up from the dark. See you on the other side, little flower. Regret. Tiny screen in my palm, I see Rome. I see the bridge I'd ride my Vespa across, empty now. Once you get in the machine, we hear, it is unlikely you'll ever get off. Our friend stands at the window behind his daughter, looking out at the empty streets. Trucks lined up, tents set up, as if they've always been thresholds into the next world. Where did everyone go, she asks. Maps on TV, red splotches covering everything. I ate a sandwich from a machine. In long-term parking, yellow dust covered my car. Home suddenly far away. Downtown, a man pushed a shopping cart down the middle of the street. Further on, another man rode past on a child's bike, baring his teeth. I had a list of things to do, an impossible list. Instead, I drove to one of those places where you wash your car. I held a wand of pressurized water, aiming it at the pollen. Today it is silent, but soon it will be loud. Today we hear birds, but soon we'll hear sirens. The end. Yeah?
Good afternoon.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
This is Ann Carson and Robert Currie. We're going to read two poems. The first one is called Each Day Unexpected Salvation, John Cage. Forest shade,
Lake shade,
poplar shade,
highway shade,
backyard shade,
cafe shade,
down behind the high school shade,
cow shade,
carport shade,
blowing shade,
dappled shade,
shade darkened by rain above,
shade under ships,
shade along banks of snow,
shade beneath the one tree in a bright place,
shade by the ice cream truck,
shade in the new car sales room,
shade in halls of the palace as all the electric lights turn on,
shade in a stairwell,
shade in tea barrels,
shade in books,
shade of clouds running over a distant landscape,
shade on bales in the barn,
shade in the pantry,
shade in the ice house, the smell of shade,
shade on runner blades,
shade along branches,
shade at night, a difficult research,
shade on rungs of a ladder,
shade on pats of butter sculpted to look like scallop shells,
shade to holler from,
shade in the chill of bamboo,
shade at the core of an apple,
confessional shade,
shade of hair salons,
shade in a joke,
shade in the town hall,
shade descending from legendary ancient hills,
shade under the jaws of a dog with a bird in its mouth trotting along to the master's voice,
shade at the back of the choir,
shade in pleats,
shade clinging to arrows in the quiver.
shade in scars. That was Unexpected, Each Day Unexpected Salvation, John Cage. Poem 2. Short talk on reading. Some fathers hate to read but love to take the family on trips. Some children hate trips but love to read. Funny how often these find themselves passengers in the same automobile. I glimpsed the stupendous clear-cut shoulders of the Rockies from between paragraphs of Madame Bovary. Cloud shadows roved languidly across her huge rock throat, traced her fur flanks. And since those days I do not look at hair on female flesh without thinking,
Deciduous?
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
poem by Hoa Nguyen from the forthcoming book, 1,000 Times You Lose Your Treasure. She leads with flower wands. Made by the dead puppeteer, the rings found them, it seemed, dry, papery, magenta flowers of the wild bougainvillea. Multiple ghosts jab your throat, thorns in the uninterrupted kitchen dream. They could see it was perfect, so their prophecy was fulfilled. So the lung smothered dies, so they wrote down their dreams, their way made unpassable, so fall through worlds, dashing the red gourd of light on the way.
Hey, this is Fred Moten. It's May 4th, 2020. I'm going to read 2 poems. One called Tiling Lining Notes, and the other is called The Fairy Ornithology. Tiling Lining Notes. A river is studio agitation through one window. A loft and rock bottom soft support and rumble. A room. A cell alight in the way the walls walk away in jubed pad and tiling. The pattern on the river floor all absolute and indiscernible unless you walk it, in the river, as all this rotary soar of the damned and held, sous vide in second linearity, parading in this tubid lining out of the basic line all in against itself in black and blue switchback, and Beatrice smiling on seeing all our little differences together, in the venereal collection area's serial eddying of how we taste and feel inseparably. There's just so many ways to keep going along the way. The miraculous influence is deltaed in Floridian branch or mangrove double silt, Coahoma County moaning or swung Oklahoming, a gap band or a gap in nature kind of sounding, drowning, burning, this continually Caribbean being on fire of the river, from river to river on canal and torn to another bleeding place we from in our Lenape shift, our Delaware gap band, sending geography through a sycophantic horn chart of the natural city in and out of its broken window, cadence still cruising mobile studio. Unnamed and making waves is what it sounds like. Lining, tiling, moaning, smiling, drowning, bleeding, burning, seeing, sending, sounding just like Joseph Daly, Thurman Barker, Dave Holland, and Sam Rivers. The fairy ornithology of Fumi's dancing branches feels the non-sensuous feel of feeling depth, the range of fringe or frill, the trill that various change of direction makes and murmurs various gathering of breeze, the tinge of various turn and murmur, nonsense, fascinoon, return to exodus and tide, not void or atom, not between, but bird and lightning and array again, the thrill of all the various indecision, repose and tarry. For there is nothing lost that may be found if sought is neither here nor there.
Norwegian air. And if I took my clothes off tonight, the stars might all fall out of the sky. Loving you is an amazing invention I never knew exists. Diet Coke bottle with your name on it says I could win a holiday to heaven. This new sadness is wholly mine and I feel pretty safe inside it. I just can't get on board with the cuteness of living today. As the plane pulls my body from the earth, it's easy to forget I'm just a bag of tenderness, of blood and dirty water. Chasing a new moon dusk across the Atlantic, my thigh pressed to a stranger. So much of this earth is just moon and water. So much of this earth is just silver. So much of my life is just watching life being lived. Potato chip crumbs, Tylenol PM, a stunning list of Frank Sinatra's lovers. My hairdresser believes that 2 years ago we entered a parallel universe, almost but not quite the same as the one before it, and I so easily buy that. Everything is wrong and good and ample. Everything's a cartoon of devastation. I flew so high, then crashed back to earth like it was no big deal. In the middle of London, there is a burned-out monument of bodies, and fire is so unreal. 2 pink gummy bears fucking on my couch. Jeremy Corbyn sniffing a red rose. Jeremy Corbyn cutting a chocolate brownie cake into slices. On Instagram, I can see that you are somewhere still meditating. A sound from the diaphragm forced up through the throat. The radicalization of young white men. I find your face and your silence frightening. Love is just a drive-by in the dark with all the windows wound right down. Found myself pressed naked to a wall, 2 fingers pressed to my anus, in the apartment of a honey-sweet stranger. Do you like this? Do you want it? Standing with one leg on the bed, getting fucked to R&B in a lazy heat, neck curtain waving on the breeze. And I remember how to be the good meat for a while, but it's no use. I'm dead without speaking or being spoken to. Bucket of creamy coffee screaming on my desk like a preacher. American doors are hard to open, you have to shoulder through. The effort of my thoughts as one long poem breaking in. Late at night in London, the dead are burning still. The dead are listening. The dead are poor and angry. The new moon is just the same old moon, cutting back across itself. I knew this already. I willed it to be so.
This is Raquel Salas Rivera reading An Open Casket for a Puerto Rican Obituary, a translation, for Pedro Pietri. Juan, Miguel, Milagros, Olga, Manuel will right now be doing their own thing where beautiful people sing and dance and work together. Pedro Pietri. They worked with the rose between their teeth. They worked the 3 o'clock shift, closed drunken nights. They smoked. Sometimes they accused each other of hitting it too hard. Sometimes they acted trash. When they went to the fair across from Plaza, they ate Maybelline clouds and closed their eyes on cold cities. They lost uncles and didn't discuss funerals. Often they laughed cruelly at the dirty rain. They paid their rent without a contract, this the only maybe stable payment, even if the check stammered. They crowned their rebels with golden cardboard. Without swimming, they regularly gathered smoke, saliva, charcoal, and vinegar flies. They had a limber complexion, a padlock insecurity, wholesome cheekbones, and tres monjitas merienda. They invaded a hotel that invaded a beach. They learned to cruise a mall without shopping, which name to give security, which fences open without pliers. They mixed arroz chino and tostones at a certain hour through the screen door. You could hear Abuela's phone. The car alarm went off and the whole block lit up with barks. They anticipated the sale of the house. They painted the bars or called Jose and offered to seal the roof. They went to walk at the linear park. They changed their diet, avoided seafood, wore sunscreen on their knuckles. They made dinner, they killed roaches, they cut to the front of the expressway, they complained from the tail end of the traffic jam, they kept the windows open so as not to waste gas, they smoked with their mouth on the filter and air on the flame, they rolled their receipts, they hammered the car horn until calor sounded like sol, until heat sounded like sun, they discovered tadpoles in the parking lot, they sat on the infertile fountain benches and opened their purse, they always had change, always my bad, they stole napkins and ketchup they carried between pens that read Santander, your bank. They strolled from errand to next in line. They landed after a full day on a night full of dishes, and in Kmart or Costco, they looked for the ATM near the sliding doors, telling their kid, "Don't touch that, it's expensive." They had a family in Jabucoa. Mommy was too old to cook. They argued with their brothers about in-home care. The check was late and no one answered. New transportation was an event. The ferry, the lagoon, the paperwork advanced. They satisfied the quota. They balanced the checkbook. They prepared taxes. They knew well their partners' asymmetries. They helped Don Paco with his groceries. They spoke on the condominium stairs about those who left, those who stayed, the hardships of living here and there. They went to church, thanked God, kept an open mind, and look at her. They decapitated reputations. They sent arroz con gandules. They didn't know if they should stop on the way to San Juan. They memorized their social security, office code, luggage combination. They sat to watch TV and fell asleep. They saw the news while folding clothes. They turned off the water heater if no one was showering. Even if it always rained at 4, they repeated this routine. Surprise, crisis, and rescue. They ran to rip off clothespins, screaming La Ropa, their hands in the air, strongholds against missile drops. They opened their palms to form a cup. They filled them with waterfall. They played on the rocks. They let loose slippery laughter. They took names into their mouths. They screamed, "Bájame la llave!" Lower the keys in the basket. They opened gates. They sat on the roof. They fixed their shirts. They made out and later sat in silence. They died and later died laughing. They splashed their faces. They asked for a ride and gave each other nicknames like Flaco, Gordo, Pendejo, or Cabrón, where beautiful people sing and dance and work together. San Juan, Puerto Rico, 2020.
Four poems. Her sound today. What fabulous construction peered through slit and blind. Keyhole peekers unite. We rest our case, whilst being entranced by that drummer. A smoke goddess wafts from guitar hole, plucking the root note of every song brought down the house. Coloring. Friendship thumb touching the back of Billy's hand, moving to the deep heaven betwixt knuckles. Loud enough for me to hear, I don't want white nothin', consuming, sullen, and overwhelmed by imbalance of revenue. Eros, sprite with slight smile, the edge where risk rubs against unknown, the dream of Mr. Baldwin allowing you to touch the skin of his ear. Cruising through his safe space where nothing is the key word for privilege, ego like democracy, not the enemy. Whiteness, like me now, is I, wonder how, and knows no God, and truth be told this violent dawn. Mothering. Speaking of they consciousness, it is all a child can do to swing and fight for justice. Their arms heavenward, bemused with light by the boring, brilliant Buddha. Sister God, thank you, our trans blood mother, the truest mercy. Your raincoat, dear. Swindler blues. We spun the discs, so fast, so far, so long, they sliced through the marsh. Out sprang a vicious, laughing cur, unnamed, for it is the of hell, doused with blankets sopped in oil. From the skins of native communes, it vanishes, vanishes. Thank you.
Para-classic. I hear questions of history. Where do we dwell? Afraid to look up, our hero can't face another monster. Monuments come down, ceiling garish, ornate, halfway undone. Our journey is full of labyrinth. Notice the singular forum, my beard graying, verbally. Resist happy hour, gospel, hospital garb, checkbox conventions. Perhaps we can create movement out of prohibition. The old watering hole striptease posture already has traction, like elbows, always elbows, and antibiotics and illegal bird feeders grant notice, create lollipop moments amidst ancestral confusion. Yes, errata surrounds us, and this isn't reference to a heritage of silence and tourism, and yes, a part of me wanders in official attire. Remember, radiant manhood as particularly subordinate. Insert pity claps and line drawings that are really figure drawings, necrotic pedestrian. Why make narrative out of parish and catacombs? War simulation, window display required, dressing wanton, I hear. Para classic. Morning. The question is if all questions are political, if books by women are majestic in their hijacking of equity, or the location of audience is inside the light bulb of person. To begin, a caterpillar first digests itself and then turns to adult structures, a puzzle to hold boring theory and other feelings, like the rush of not jumping simply train to train. It is here that metamorphosis begins, with frustration and empty chairs, a variety show conglomerate of the kind who seeks competence, not talent. Broken axioms in place of an eyeball appears amidst untouched coral reef. I prefer to be spoken, not a place revisited to see myself through language, shadow active pipelines, get proximate to my own reaction, history, manifest chemistry behind how we become who we are in addition to utility outfielder, or pigeon perched atop a pitcher's mouth. All small things wield importance. An archaic mouse, melancholy sailor, a pedestrian mall overwhelmed by garbage, concrete, dramatic figures who wear drama purely in souring of face, weathered by rooftop wind, an unknown fantasy. I prefer to carve my own industry, create who can't happen on stage, cafeteria table, contour costume, new codes resilient and vibrant, trickle down inventory of resistance, or look at how you fill in each blank.
Hi, this is Timothy Donnelly, and I'm on my floor in Brooklyn. I'm going to read a poem for you called The Human. It's in my book, The Problem of the Many. It's actually the last poem in the book. It is kind of a hidden track. It appears behind the notes. I wrote it as the last poem to go into the book, and I wrote it when I started worrying that maybe the overall vibe of The Problem of the Many was sort of negative or down on humanity and maybe a little bit hopeless. It's not how I feel all the time, so I wanted to have a poem that maybe had a kind of uplift at the end. And when I tried to imagine what there was that I would praise about the human and broadly, there's plenty of things on the local level, but like broadly, I ended up gliding all the way back in time to the origins of language for some reason. And I thought, well, there was someone who at one point stepped forward and started making sounds that indicated something rather than were just sort of grunts and moans or whatever it might be. And the idea of organizing them into a language, and a language that maybe I imagined might be a language of praise at the outset, made me feel pretty good. And I think that that person, of course this is speculative, there was no one single person, things happen, differently than that, I think. But this speculative entity, this one forebear, this one ancestor who stepped forward and started doing doing this, I thought, well, that was a pretty valorous and bold thing to do. And so that's why I wrote this poem. And before I read it, I want to also thank CAConrad for letting me participate in this. Also, I'd say a poet who is bold and valorous in all that they do. And I know that I, for one, am very grateful to their example, to them for their example, reminding us always how far and wide and deep and high poetry can still go, despite whatever forces would make you feel otherwise. In fact, I think that they exemplify how poetry is a mechanism for pushing back against those forces and back against limitations that are imposed on us. This poem, as I said, is called The Human. In the interim, I will find a way to feel at home with the animal. Aristotle, in his Politics, says nature made for politics because alone among animals it enjoys the gift of speech. Other animals have a voice to indicate what is pleasant, what painful, and to relay it to each other. But true speech, says Aristotle, takes things further and is intended to make clear what is beneficial, what harmful, what is good or bad. And this, among animals, is peculiar to the human, who alone enjoys perception of the just, which nature would never provide without cause, he says, but does so that they may live collectively, in communities, and not like those of the goat, which seeks only what gives pleasure and wanders endlessly to avoid pain, but in settlements, vast cities, it takes politics to build, an effort extended across centuries, like bridges over waterways, their lengths reflected in the flowing underneath them and up glass faces of towers the sun illuminates with such intensity it feels like intention, the will of what is to go on, to take things further, to adapt parts of the body intended for breathing into a means to force air into sounds, sounds into words, words into prayers of thanks to the sun. And when I close my eyes to brace against the late imperial effects of it, I feel a forebear step forward from a cave in thought, its arms extended as if to take part bodily in the beauty of what we call sky, and through some new distortion in the throat indicates what the many, still situated and dark behind us, come one by one to tremble at the mouth to see. Thank you.
Lions, 18th of January 2018. The last lion in the world understands that after all the unanswered roars, he is the last. And so he throws off his yellow mane and dresses in a nimbus of golden fire. Where he puts his paw, the grass is scorched. He roars no in all the world's languages, and he goes from city to city scaring people, though he is no danger at all. Anyone who sees another animal die out will never again get to unwrinkle their own face during a good night's sleep. You sharp people, don't jack up felled trees, don't fill empty lakes, don't comfort skinned foxes. Should I give myself as food to the last lion in the world, so I can avoid seeing a tomorrow where the human is king of the predators, a desolate sovereignty, scarier than the world of the dead? World's last lion, we are sorry we can't give you eternal life, but we can make you into one of our lesser gods, the keeper of our cut forests and drained wetlands. You think it's embarrassing. You have heard us speak so pompously to gods that no gods dare answer us. A lion gets tired of hearing squeaky lion poems, cold offerings that would barely satisfy a house cat. The lion's altar is just a wobbly kitchen stool, a moth-eaten lion embroidered on its top, another stupid lion book written by some dolt in the Ministry of Culture. But we know of no other way. Little hungry God, the mouth is rich because it is given food and it can talk and talk. And the ass is poor because everyone is sitting on it, nobody is listening to it. And humanity is the intestine that runs between them, saying, I take what I can get, nothing leaves me untouched, here at the bottom of this glistening river of chewed food, quenching a pair of yellow eyes. Big, strong tongue muscle, find yourself a new mouth to brag in. Little hungry climber, find yourself new worlds to wreck. The same old complaints, why did you let my kids live? You cooked porridge for us in jail, only to give us strength to work in the sad factories. Weak sunlight, shallow soil gave us pale green cabbage and thick-skinned turnips, lots of shit and little spark in coffin-tight tenements, leering outhouses, each harassed body dreamt of coffee, sugar, cocoa, medicines of the deep forests, white man's speed. The first William Blake, whose name no one knows, sang out that there will be fewer lions in the world when the number of people grows, when the trees are hiding in the bushes and the furnaces are opening wider. The other William Blake, who was called Blake but not William, also sang, fasten the leaves back on the trees of knowledge, hang the fruits back up like Christmas baubles offering comfort in the winter dark. And the third William Blake, who never took his mask off and roared like a lion will, we fought like lions so we could get to be called people. Lionheart became a nickname for hard kings, and wrote that William Blake, who called himself William, but not Blake, none of us had yet seen a lion. And so we dared to call ourselves lions and avoid in this way real lions. And all of this we might have heard from William Blake, not the William Blake who became known, but the one who resembled him, and allegedly said, everyone must have a little lion in them, in a world without room for lions. For every human being that squats in front of their own house and is the last to know their own language, there will be a William Blake who is ashamed to be William Blake and tries to avoid meeting another William Blake who does everything a William Blake should do except for moving Jerusalem around.
Everyone, my name is Magdalena Zurawski. I am sitting here in Athens, Georgia, USA, and I'll be reading 2 poems from my newest book, The Tiniest Muzzle Sings Songs of Freedom. And the first poem I'll read is called We Found Ourselves in Reading, Then Closed the Book. That was all it took, one pesky minute adrift in the mind at bedtime. Awake there, I didn't sleep, naked and unconsoled. Why did God always insist on using brains to store unwanted soundtracks? I stretched my legs, walked the dog, and still truth wouldn't fall out of my ear. It gave me a stiff neck and a strange gait. As unhappy as a bird in snow, I sat down to plan at the kitchen table with the formica at my elbows. My companion felt suddenly the seriousness of the problem. It was then easy to explain. Getting to go where you aren't, where you never will be, that's what airplanes are all about, I began. Nescafe, diesel fumes, Nietzsche's typewriter behind a pane of glass. How wonderful it will be to stay where we can never live. She clearly understood. In only a short walk from the S-Bahn station, I noted the lovers are buried through the woods, interred where they fell by the lake. With this last detail, she packed her trunks. We admired the shapes of foreign spoons, the slightly different cut of shirt worn by men over 50. Had we the chance, we would have even found an Italian railroad yard worthy of our attention. And when an elderly Danish woman at the next table inquired finally how it was that our countrymen were so stupid, I could only note that historically our army's firing lines have been circular. And this next poem is called Summer in the Network of Privileged Carports. In my body there is a death I will always want to forget. I see it up ahead in the clearing of my breath. I'm alive in a yard where I look for life. I find a fawn caught between two posts and call for help. I drive the machine through ivy, take down the privet, don't stall the engine, the blades don't hesitate, but the turf grass won't give up its turf like a tired proverb. I sing against the machine, sound a hole, an O in which my heart dwells, how I'm wronged and well fed. Oh, to think of the flies and hummingbirds and wasps, to think how I have tried to kill the fire ants, how I have tried to harm no living thing except the fire ants, how I have ignored the diseased retirees who keep the weeds down with Roundup, how I want the lavender and the foxgloves and lemon tree to live, and is it here in all this grunt and feeling that our lived lives expand? I take care of the hedges, can't keep up with things in the carport. The problem of existence is rarely addressed in carports. Or maybe I should open the fridge, take out the mayonnaise, make a sandwich, and shut up. This is life with a butter knife. The soil washes down the hill to the street. There the sediment of the gutter becomes a rich ground for everything green. The armadillos hide in the mint and pineapple sage. The basil and lemon balm are all gnawed, but not the rosemary. The rosemary withstands the heat. The bench with the broken board I fixed for my 43rd birthday, the grill that leaks grease and the mice that feast on the grease and the hose that got nicked, the faucet now capped with a blue plastic bucket, another fawn rejected by its mother, the fox who stole the neighbor's chicken, the copperhead dead under Clayton's magnolia. I return to the carport with dirt in my shoe and a rash from grazing cukes. Everything I own seems broken, even after it's been fixed. An old snapper with a severed fuel line, seeds for black-eyed peas, dryer fuzz blown into a gas spot, and then this. Dish soap, salt, and white vinegar, ready to snuff out any leaf I'd like not to live. Thanks, y'all. Stay alive. Be well.
Inhabitant of your hair, a structure of smells and voice, a skin of one's own, like a membrane admitting no osmosis, no traffic. Open and close your hands and fingers as your most expensive traveling equipment, your mouth moisture, the only liquid allowed past airport security. Species, genus, family, order, class, phylum, kingdom, domain. Father, not in heaven, plays the senses of gender according to method of reproduction. Mother, like a virgin, plays the large machinery, producing milk and other secretive secretions. Both perform the monthly waste of fluids, erecting a wall of china for dinner. As birthright, a syntax to obey, and a dictionary to quote from all said and done. If a border is the largest organ of a country, migrate with migraine, nomadic in oblivion, for the manifold stations of distance. The place you left ends as the finish line of the race for your body displacement. Cross an ocean in search of the miraculous, from ex-pariah to expatriate, in the high culture and haute couture of new centripetal masters. Watch the orgy of hosts and guests and say, far from me to interfere with the interior design of your wholly homogeneous country. Still, this is the only travel guide. Leave and lose door keys in the house, all names and the lovers attached to the names, a city, a river, a familiar arrangement of trees. Design, build, remodel your cave, your castle, a shell, a solace bunker, with the skin you shed, with the hair you seed, and grow and reap. From your body no exile is visible. Pack your bones and leave home with the attitude of the first Visigoth at the gates of Rome.
The voracious. A heart vein throbs between her brows. Cathy sounds incensed, and other jokes made at her expense. With characters of granite schist, she hashtags a ban on all such jokes. Then they, her so-called friends, pipe up. Why are you making such a stink on race? You're so post your silicon. Scuttle back to her spot, a sidekick chum, her lyrics needed when they need a backup minor key. To that lead singer's blues, I got no chord. But what core is Cathy's son, sidekick chum? Torn like tendrils of bloody tenderloin, floating in the sea, heart a stage set about to be struck. All night long, she scribbles her useless esoterica. All day long, mumblecore, she meeps along. Hurry ha. I want to be encored in horn-made dreams and pedal my tricycle to a dawn of dippled lemons and sail among a regatta of cabbage moth wings upon a milking pond. I want to be eerie as pearl-given clouds imping into spring and explode to a Bedouin sky of dancing stars and alabath of light. I want to be sweet as a bubble tea of tapioca pearls my balls suck through a straw. I want to gather thistles and get fruity pickles. I want to lose myself entirely, ground myself to Pompeian powder, my underwear ripply as crumbly Kleenex till the sun burns me to millipedes, and cent percent spent I can sleep among chandelier leaves, soft as Sisu's ear fuzz. Notorious. Bigamwala, Bigamwala, why are you so glum? You are in heaven, be happy. You are hip-hop's grand pajundrum in white foxy mink snugly over your blue toe belly, and this fleet of white coochie Gucci Hummers is for you. Like a short order cook slinging hash browns, you sling so many rhymes. Profo rapping, you will die. Now for put, dead. Why so cheap? Oh, you are in heaven for white people. Wrong. You're fucking heaven. Heaven does stink like mothballs, bibbit. And what's it? You smell wet dog? Milksop chatty angels with their Banaka grins twibble. No Hennessy, just seltzer, please, before they sing your hits a cappella. Shatta bagatbulia, very last straw this Angres propagandi. Silly as a cricket in pubes. Bigamwala bringing up demands, a smashation of clouds part to reveal the uretic sun, and swatting away treaty pie cupids looms fat-mouthed God, frowning like rotten turbot. But Bigita is VIP sold records in millions tens, so God sighs, relents, and the clear-necked sky melts to op-art swirls of cherry coke red, burning up, white magnolias into a chain-link planet of asphalt and black cell phone towers. This more like it suppoys all whoosh and video girl boomba lathies drinking lychee lassies. But where is your number one rap rival nemesis? Where is Tupac-y? Thank you.
Portrait as a landscape. We walk a pair past eucalyptus trees. The sentries flock off the peach in the sky, frame the street smelling of crow shit. They dim the pink, usher us to the open air theatre, where everywhere this summer they will screen 12 rapes. One for each week we are out of uniform, one for each cheap peppermint, one for each soda clear as rosewater, dense as glass. We walk a pair slip-on socks fogged in red dust, orbiting what was once stone, as dogs do dogs, hands the hips, and we walk the anywhere walks. Our first fuck-offs slip out the edges of our anywhere mouths, tasting flint and silt, tasting the selvage between two girls sewn into the landscape, spliced as we are to cellulose, camphor, fiction. Strip over strip, we rate ourselves you for unrestricted public exhibition. Our talk sprawls across the street. We are a continent drifting into dusk in skirts. A ruffle too close, a downy arm far, far too far, past the single-serve everything's just this once's, past the grotto frothing hibiscus over the Virgin's Cape, past velvet apostles overdressed for this emergency, each halo a hymen between man and his God. We talk fast, fast, too fast into each other, pull words like shell after wet shell from backswash. We draw us in our own image in fast forward, the sillage of the ocean dragging itself back from us girls, girls, girls. We talk and we loiter all summer, annexed into every garden we graze, called rose, rose, rose. Clasp coins into purses, pocket all the curses, one for each time we touch ourselves, for each time we speak of how laps dissolve, how a scene cuts, how a mountain range marks the cusp where one nation plunges into another. We just walk as girls do. Book bags grinding into the small of our backs, we talk to patch the shredded blouses, we cork the gut tumult in fear of salt or glance. We take it in our stride, we count to 12. for each time a sari is unreeled on screen from an anchor and beached near the navel, where the storyboard begins, pleats itself, and ends. We saunter into the grass, cooling the shape of us under a kite's scoot. We pierce the aperture into our anywhere feet, stud our knowing into the law of sallow count fireflies. Soft, soft, lit, lit, soft, soft, lit, lit. We envy their bellies blinking coal light, wait for ours to project us, 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 us. The projector beam quivers all night. We sit, letting history catch up. But we have oiled our braids well to slip out of traps laid for us, since we've known that roads never go where roads claim to go, since we've known how to hopscotch, how to follow the marled marble into mud, how to wait to cross over until the hard-boiled sweet cracks mid-sentence like a frame into